we lock up both the guy that shoots his neighbor so he can steal his $100 and the guy who shoots his neighbor because he believes his neighbor is a space alien and and the guy's crazy.
Right, and one we grant free will, one we grant responsibility for their actions to, and the other we don't. Why?
But a second ago, didn't you just say that they do have free will? What was the point you were making to Matt?
Mm-hmm.
That the mentally ill people still have free will?
No.
Or is it just will? I'm sorry. There was something Matt said you objected to.
He said that they have less freedom.
Yes.
And I'm going, why?
Okay, because...
Why would you say that?
Oh, whoa, hey. But isn't... Excuse me, I just want to track down this one point. You said, speaking of people in general, we have will, but it's not free.
Right.
So your contention is that all of us are constrained in our freedom. All our wills are constrained as far as their freedom.
Right.
So what difference does it make now for you? What is the point to you questioning whether the mentally ill have as much freedom or less freedom? I mean,
because he's making a claim about freedom.
But your assumption.
I'm trying to show it's ridiculous.
But your position is that we haven't got the freedom.
Right,
in the
right.
first place.
Yes, my position is that.
So for him,
his position is that we do. So I'm trying to show that his position is not consistent.
But hang on, right? If all people don't have freedom,
right,
and there's some people that have even less,
right,
how is that even a challenge to your position?
Because he's saying they have freedom.
Why do you need to defend that? You can say, Matt, nobody has freedom. Dennis, this is what I'm asking. Why don't you just turn to him and say, nobody has freedom? So
because that doesn't address his point.
It doesn't matter. I just understand
from
how the
Dennis's perspective.
I don't understand how his point was a challenge to your position in the first place. If it's not, then you can just brush it off.
I'm trying to argue. His. I grant. During the argument, I will, of course, grant certain things that a person says to be able to argue the point that he's making.
All right. So it's just for the sake of argument. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I completely understand where you're coming from.
Okay. In the limited sense, your position is that there's no discernible difference between the will of a sane person and the will of an insane person.
In the case of freedom, right? Yeah,
right.
Why would there be?
Right.
I mean, our brains are made a certain way, and thus we act a certain way. Their brains are made a certain way, and thus they act a certain way.
Right. You're just claiming that they're programmed differently.
I can't make a judgment call as to which is better.
Could you please speak into the microphone?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
So Dennis's position is that there's no difference between a sane person and an insane person. That there is there is a difference in that they are put together different and their programming is different, but they're not less.
Again. But see, who had her hand up first? Go ahead.
I don't know. I think there is a difference. There's more a quantitative difference between a sane person and an insane person, and it has to do with the degree to which a sane person's beliefs match up to external reality. I think in order to be really capable of making a decision, you have to be sort of in possession of facts. I think that the less you understand about the world, the less likely you are to be able to recognize the fullness of a choice when it comes at you. I think
I have to disagree with this.
I mean, so part of what I mean by free will is basically the ability to choose between courses of actions. And if I believed that you were about to kill me in the next minute, I would not only become capable of killing you at that point, but it would almost become an imperative, because that would greatly reduce my options for what I could do if I wanted to remain alive. Now, I think part of... Now, don't worry, I don't believe you're about to kill me.
No, I understand that. Go on.
Part of what I think you're arguing is that we don't have freedom because there are a lot of things that, because there are a lot of choices that aren't open to us.
Well, I say we don't have free will because we don't get to choose. We don't get to choose what our desires are.
But we also don't get to choose what the laws of physics are. And we do get to choose our desires to some extent.
No.
Not to any extent at all.
Really?
We can construct desires based on other desires and
Ted
other
Haggard thinks
thoughts,
you can.
but at the root core, no. You only have at the root, your desires are imposed upon you. You did not choose them.
And yet,
and that's what you use to weigh your options and your.
And yet, we're free to change our mind and our positions on things.
No.
Well, a while ago, you said
no,
you
you're
could
not.
choose. I mean, you granted.
Well,
that I
I'm
could
talking
choose to
about.
stand
I'm
up or
talking
sit
about
down.
a computer can choose.
Yeah,
there's no problem there.
I think what Dennis means is,
what?
in the sense of the dictionary definition of of choice, we can perform an action that the dictionary defines as a choice, except that you have to understand that is bounded entirely by our programming. So that within the bounds of the programming, we can do this action called a choice.
Something can be bounded,
and that's why it's not
but
free.
Still free within those bounds. Like, for instance, you're a game designer, and I could talk about.
Well, I'm a game designer. Dennis is an
But go
artist.
ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
But we all play games, and I'm going to pick a game that most of our audience will be familiar with, rather than coming up with some of these obscure but much more fun games.
Do it.
When you play Monopoly, you land on a square and you have the choice to buy a particular piece of property or not.
Sure.
However, you don't have the choice to land on a square and buy a piece of property on the other side of the board. You don't have a choice.
Well, we already
to just walk
dispensed
out
with that thing.
Yeah.
By saying our choices are bounded. Sure.
Yeah, Dennis is not, guys. It's very important in this debate. I have been talking with Dennis about this for a lot longer. Right.
I know.
It's very important for everybody to understand. Dennis's issues have nothing much to do with, now as we walk around, being faced with options and picking a direction to go from there. He is talking about our fundamental characteristics that we didn't create, that we got because of birth, because of the physical, because of the playing out of natural law since the Big Bang. And then from that point on, we are machines that are pre-programmed. Sure, we do things we perform actions that are called choices, but we only do them within bounds that were established by the forces that made us who we are.
But
is that correct?
Yeah.
That was my point with the Monopoly issue, though.
Now, how is that your point?
My point is that we are bounded by the rules of the game.
Do you mind if I argue your position for just a moment?
No, I'd like to if I could.
All right. You can.
What I'm saying is you're bounded by the rules of Monopoly.
Sure.
And you can't suddenly turn it into checkers.
Yes.
But within the rules of Monopoly, there are a whole variety of things that you can do that are consistent with the rules of Monopoly and are to varying degrees successful or unsuccessful or just
But
lucky.
when you're playing the game, you can only do the one thing you do.
I don't think that's correct.
When I'm talking
Except in
to
the past
Matt
tense.
about changing one's mind.
No, changing desires, which is the point I haven't got to
Changing desires, yes. How would you change a desire?
That's the point I've been waiting to get to for a couple minutes.
Do it.
I have changed my desires.
Sure.
I have consciously made the choice to change my desires.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
How did you arrive at that? How did you arrive at the desire to change your choice?
Right.
And to change your desire?
You're saying that my choice to change my desires was inevitable.
Yes. Well, what I'm saying is another desire overrode your
right.
Your previous thing. So it doesn't matter. It's just the playing out of these root desires